My mushroom gravy is something I haven't tried before. I've made gravies, but I haven't tried the mushroom gravy. I think it's important to get a lot of flavor out of the mushrooms themselves. So I took some mushroom stems and started with them. I boiled them down a little bit, and then I started adding all my other flavors. So it's a really easy dish, just takes a little time to get all the flavors together, but I think you'll really enjoy it. So here's my mushroom dish. For this recipe, I need about a pound or so of mushrooms. Now, I like to use the mushroom stems because they contain a lot of flavor, and normally you would throw them away and wouldn't use them in cooking, but these are great for this particular recipe. So I'll just dice them up into little pieces so that I can put them into like a stew, and I'll basically boil them down to extract as much flavor as I can from them, because I think that's really where you get the amazing flavor. Now, I'll use some other parts of the mushroom as well, but I really want to use the stems to get most of the flavor from it. So I'll go ahead and put them in a pot, and I'll add about a cup's worth of vegetable broth to it. And I'll just bring it to a low simmer. And all I'm gonna do is just leave this on the stove for about 45 minutes or so. I'm just gonna let it cook for a while, and it will extract so much flavor from the mushrooms, and you'll get this wonderful mushroomy taste out of it. It's just phenomenal. So I highly recommend doing this because it's something that's really amazing and really gets you some great flavors. So now that I have these two ingredients here, I'll turn the heat up a little bit. I'll add some of my other mushroom parts just because I want to have that in there, and I'll lid it up. And I will just let it sit for, like I said, about 45 minutes or so. I will just walk away. I won't touch it, won't look at it. Maybe once in a while I'll make sure that it's not burning, but overall I just want to start to extract the flavor, so I'll just let it sit. Now after the 45 minutes, you're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. You can see that it's got some richness to it. Now all those pieces of stem are very soft, and you're ready to work with them. So I'll go ahead and take these out of the pot, put them in another dish that I'm going to use later anyway, and then go ahead and start making my base. I'm going to make my roux. And what I'm going to start with is some onion in here. I want to get some onion in and start getting that sauteing with a little bit of olive oil. Then once I've started the onion off, what I do with this onion in particular is I go ahead and I just puree it so I get little soft pieces rather than having huge chunks. So rather than dicing it up, I go ahead and put it in the Vitamix. I think it's a little bit better that way. I'll go ahead and start sauteing that off, and then I'll add in some garlic. And I just want a couple of cloves of garlic in here, just to give it a little more flavor. I want that depth of flavor to build. I want that mushroom flavor, but I want all these other flavors to come together in it, so I'll go ahead and add the garlic to it. So once it's all together, I'll go ahead and I'll give it a good stir, make sure that it starts to saute down a little bit. The onions start to just turn translucent. That's what I really want, is just to get a little more color on them. Once they're at that point where they start to look like they're ready and they're just giving a little bit of fragrance off, don't want to overcook them here, I'm going to go ahead and add my flour to it. So the flour is going to give me a little bit of depth to this so that it actually thickens it too. So this is where I'm creating a roux, because I'm using the fat from the oil and a little bit of flour to actually create this idea for a roux. I'll use some nutritional yeast as well to give it just a little bit more body. I think that's important to have in here, though you could omit this if you want to. So I'll add about a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, and then I'm ready to start mixing this up and get it going. So that's really what I need here. So what I'm going to do next is add a little bit of soy sauce. There's no salt in this dish otherwise, so I think the soy sauce adds a nice little depth to it. Plus it gives it a little umami, and I'm using in particular mushroom flavored soy sauce, which gives it just a little bit more depth. I think it just adds a little something extra to the dish itself, so you get this wonderful gravy that's got this remarkable sort of mushroomy depth that's got a little umami. It tastes good on the tongue. It has this sort of lusciousness when it goes in. So I'm going to go ahead and mix those together and make a mass out of this. This is my roux. I'm just going to make something that's a mix of these, the flour and the other ingredients, that comes together as sort of a thick paste. And then once the paste comes together, then I can add my vegetable stock back to it and my mushroom stock so that I can get the whole dish to come together. So I think I'm at a point now where I've got it almost together, so I'll go ahead and I'll get my mushroom stock that I created a few minutes ago back into my dish, and I'll just pour it back in and mix it up. Now you want to do this in stages so that you get it mixed up and you start to smooth it out a lot. You don't want lumps, so it's important to just kind of do this in little steps to try and make sure that you get something that's useful out of it, so you get a gravy instead of just a lumpy mass. So I'll go ahead and just keep mixing that up. As I mix it up, I'll get ready to put the next batch in, and I'm just keeping it on a low heat just to kind of get everything coming together. And I just want to make this sort of thick gravy that comes out of it. So I'll go ahead and just keep mixing for a moment here, and then I'll add some more in. And I'll put the rest in there, and then continue to mix it. So that'll be my mushroom stock part, and that's going to be most of my liquid that's going to be in there. But I still need a little more vegetable stock. So I'll take about a cup of vegetable stock beyond this and add it in as well and go ahead and mix it up. So that'll give me the complete flavor that I want and gives it about the right texture. Now, if you want a little bit more liquid, you could add a little bit more vegetable stock. If you like it a little thicker, you could add a little less. It's really your call. And depending on how much you're going to heat it, whether you're going to cool it and keep it in the fridge, you may need to add some more vegetable stock to it along the way. So just go ahead and keep mixing that until you come up with something that looks like this. This is my mushroom gravy. This is it right here. Now, I like to make it in advance so I can put it in the fridge and it'll really develop the flavors deeply, and then I'll put it back in the pan just before I'm ready to serve it. So it comes out with this really amazing flavor. I can add a little more vegetable stock if I think it needs it, but this is really what I'm looking for. You got this great umami, this great flavor, to just get something together that really makes a nice gravy. I think this beats any store-bought gravy you could ever get, whether it's turkey gravy or whether it's vegetable gravy. This is something that really is remarkable. So this is my gravy, and this is what it looks like when it's done. And I have something that I really enjoy having on a lot of dishes. And you can use it, you don't have to use it for Thanksgiving, you can use it anytime you like. It just has this sort of remarkable palate to it. Now, one last thing I like to add, just to give it that earthiness and that sort of flavor of Thanksgiving, is a little bit of sage. And the sage just gives it that little body that you want. You don't have to add a lot, but it just kind of rounds out the flavor a little bit more. You could leave it out if you want, but I like to add it in, especially at Thanksgiving time, because it gives it something nice. Now, of course, you should sample your dish and make sure that it has enough salt and enough pepper. It has that right balance of flavors. You can always add a little bit more if you want to, and again, a little more vegetable stock if you want, but you just want to make sure the flavors are all rounded out and you have something that really comes together nicely. Now, to be honest, when I make this amount of vegetable gravy, this mushroom gravy, it doesn't last for very long. It has a certain thickness to it and this sort of luxuriousness. It actually goes pretty quickly. If I have a little bit left over after Thanksgiving, this will be gone in a day or so, just because you start putting it on other things. If you have a little turkey, you put it on that. If you're not serving turkey, you put it on everything else that you have, because it's so delicious and really makes a great accompaniment to a lot of things.